Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Thank you for joining this GP Strategies webinar, where we'll explore best practices and innovative insights to help you and your organization improve performance.
Let me welcome everybody to our latest webinar for GP Strategies in Asia Pacific. And this is the first time we're specifically discussing the topic of automotive. So automotive is one of our key practices in the region, so we're very excited to do that. Let us start with some just a little bit of admin and housekeeping for people who have not used WebEx before. You'll find on your right-hand side some panels there with the participants and chat and a polling function. So if you have questions or comments as you go through, feel free to just to type it into the chat there, make sure it's addressed to everyone, and then we can pick it up. That'll be really useful, especially when we have our panel discussion. If we move on to the next slide. So we're going to start putting that into to good practice immediately. So we're going to put a poll question out that we'd like you to answer. And that is, we know that the automotive industry is undergoing a really huge transformation. So which part do you think is going through the most transformation? Now, take your time on this. We're going to leave the poll open while we introduce our panelists, so you've got time to think about it and respond. But the options are A, development and production, B, sales and marketing, C, usage and service, and D, all of the above. So in other language, A is product development, engineering, manufacturing, B, the sales and marketing activity that many of you have in your individual markets, and C, after the vehicle is sold and the consumer using their vehicle and that vehicle getting serviced. So have a think about that and feel free to respond. Submit your answer. You should see that in the polling panel on the right-hand side of your screen. And while you're doing that, I would like to introduce our panel today. So these kind of events, the best part of them is we get to hear from your industry experts and industry veterans and their view of what's happening in their markets and around our region. So it's really is a pleasure to invite today some old friends and some relatively new friends, and I'll ask them to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Simon Rutherford. Simon is the Managing Director of Ford New Zealand. Simon, welcome. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Scott, and welcome to everybody. Pleasure to be with you today. A little bit of background about me. I'm a lifer with Ford. So I started in Ford of Britain and I did about 12 years there. Then I moved to Thailand and did 4 years in Thailand, 4 years in China, 3 years in the US, and then my wife's a Kiwi, so I had the opportunity to come down to New Zealand to run our business here. So took that opportunity and looking forward to the panel and answering some of the questions. So talk to you later.
Thanks, Simon. Next, I'd like to introduce Kunwichit Tangwongchinsuk. Kunwichit is based here in Bangkok and is the Manager of Retail Training for BMW Group Thailand. So Kunwichit, Chen Nenam to Eng Nakap.
Thank you very much, Captain Scott, and good morning, everyone. I'm right to say that it's my honor to join this event, and I'm working for BMW for about 10 years, but not starting in the training, let's say, department, but starting in the sales department, and just in charge for the retail training for about 6 years ago, and let's say, hope that it's gonna be a good session today, and we have a good idea and good discussion. Thank you.
Richard, thank you very much. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce Jamie Marias. Jamie is the Regional General Manager with Nissan with responsibility for the ASEAN region and based somewhere between Thailand and Malaysia, depending on COVID conditions. So Jamie, welcome. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. Good morning. So Jamie here. I'm with Nissan since 2012 until now. So but I've been moved around a few countries within the region. So I've worked in most of Indochina and of course from Malaysia as well. And then now in Thailand, taking care of the whole ASEAN market. So my role is basically on the after sales. So I'm head of the after sales for the region, ASEAN region. Nice to meet everyone.
Thanks, Jamie. And I'll just introduce myself and Laurie Martin from GP Strategies. Laurie is our Business Development Director for Asia Pacific. Laurie.
Hi, everybody. I see some familiar faces on the call, so thank you. Laurie Martin. I've been with TTI, now GP, for almost over 10 years, working based in China, now in Thailand, and beforehand in the Middle East, and worked globally. So I've been providing solutions for the last 10 years and worked very closely with Scotty for the Asia Pacific region. And in total, I've had about 30 years experience in the automotive industry, right from an apprentice right through to executive levels in Australia. So when they put the word up veteran, I guess, yes, that could be called a veteran. So pleased to meet you all. And
he's got the beard to prove it. So, Scott McCormack, for those that you don't know me, I'm based here in Bangkok. I'm responsible for GP's operations in Thailand, Philippines, and India, and also take a lead in the automotive practice. Like many of the people on this call, started out in automotive. That's been pretty much my entire career before moving from there into learning and development, first with TTI and then with GP Strategies. So and have worked across a large part of this region after initially coming out of New Zealand. So that's us. Let's move into the crux of the conversation today. I'm going to go through a short presentation just really to set the scene on what we're talking about when we and what we mean by transformation in automotive retail. And let's start out with the drivers of transformation. First up, let's put up our poll results. So I'll ask Zach to do that. So I'm seeing, what am I seeing, Zach? I've got the results kind of cut off. Can you read those out for us?
Sure. So we have development and production with 3 people voting for it, sales and marketing with 3 people, usage and service with 1, and all of the above with 14 people voting for it.
Right. And then quite a few who didn't answer, so they either couldn't get the poll function working or they're still thinking about it, but that's fine. I think it's just that's recognition of the fact that we're seeing the transformation across every part of the value chain in automotive, and it's affecting everything that we do in the automotive industry. So let's move on past the poll now. So we really think about this as a mobility revolution that's transforming our whole business. And so every step of the way is getting digitized. Connected cars, autonomous cars, shared cars, electric cars. So in development and production, there's obviously a massive trend towards EV, and there's still questions to be answered on the sustainability of EV over the long term, but that change is happening, and it's unstoppable. If we look at how we sell vehicles now, that's starting to change as well. We've seen in some of our Asia Pacific markets, some really major OEMs change the model away from franchise dealers to agencies, and so that's really significant. And then the way that people own their vehicles, use their vehicles, is starting to change too, and we're seeing the emergence of platforms that will really disrupt that. When it comes to people actually using their vehicle, interacting with their vehicle, obviously ADAS and the whole user experience is changing very rapidly. And then manufacturers have to grapple with how to do over-the-air service, remote service. So last week I was talking to the global head of aftersales for a manufacturer, and he was telling me about the learning curve that they've gone through doing over-the-air updates to vehicles. It's something we typically associate with phones, and they're having to do that. So in retail, we're really going to have to make sure that we're able to support the customer through every step of this change journey. So Zach, next slide if I could. And so we talk about this as being retail in full flux. So let's focus in on retail now. So next slide. The yeah, this is going to impact everything that happens in retail. And so we look at it in three parts. We look at the work, the worker, and the workplace. So the work is what we do to support a customer through their journey and to add value and make a profit. The workers within our retail environment, and then the actual physical environment of the dealership itself. Next slide. So starting with the work, and you're going to see in the next few slides quite a few data points and percentages. A lot of those come from studies in the US or in Europe. We don't have really good access in Asia Pacific to public studies that cover the region that go into great detail about the changing consumer trend. But I'm comfortable saying that all of these trends here we're experiencing in this region. Some of them we're ahead of the Western market, some of them we might be a bit behind, but they're all completely relevant. So we all know customers have lots of places to go and get information about their vehicle now before they even come to a showroom. 70% of customers say that the main reason they come to a showroom is to experience the vehicle, test drive the vehicle, and to confirm the decision that they think they want to make based on the research that they've done. Getting the vehicle quoted, getting the vehicle financed and paid for, the consumer has much more power in this part of the transaction now, and we're seeing new players muscle into the process as far as different ways of financing and leasing. And then in service now, still all about convenience, still all about minimizing the amount of time that the owner needs to spend in our facilities getting their vehicle serviced. Next slide. So now we look at the workers. We look at our workforce in retail and in dealership, and it's really interesting. We have now 4 generations. We have the boomers and the Gen X, and who are more likely to be managers just based on the fact that they've been there longer, and then the millennials and the Gen Z, more likely to be frontline and working their way into leadership responsibilities. So each of these groups has typically, and I say typically, I don't like data that says, oh, if you're a boomer, you're automatically like this. If you're Gen Z, you're automatically like this. Not true, but these are general statements about these generations. So very different expectations of what they want out of their work and out of their career, and very different levels of comfort and adoption around digital. And so leaders of retail need to manage this diverse workforce to meet their business objectives and to look after customers. Now, we need all of these generations because the customers that we're serving in retail come from all these generations as well. So as much as we say people are starting to perform much more of the buying process digitally, there's still customers, there's still buyers who want to come into a dealership, want to establish a relationship with someone and want to be advised. So we still have this broad range of customers that we want to be able to serve. And so it's critical that we have every type of person, every generation of employee on board in dealerships to get this done. So looking at the actual dealership itself, and this is where there's great change and there's great anxiety. People say, are there still going to be dealerships? Yes, there are still going to be dealerships, but they'll have to adapt. Everyone will have to adapt to this hybrid model where a consumer might choose to do part of the buying process online, mobile, virtual, and they might choose to come to the dealership for part of it. So if we look at the US, and consumers going through the process of buying a vehicle, so 75% of those consumers are engaging in some form with digital retailing tools. And in the US, 1 out of 3 franchise dealers can provide all of these steps online. Okay, that's 1 out of 3. So we think this is going to be a future where consumers will step into the dealership, step out, step into virtual, step back into the dealership. And so we need to have the processes and the flexibility and the people to deal with all of that. Next slide, please, Zach. So GP Strategies, we're really focused on helping people equip themselves, be ready, and be able for this change. So let's talk briefly about this before we get to our panel discussion. And let's have each of you, if you can, in the chat, just type in your thoughts for either you're in the auto industry or you're in other industries. What are some of the ways you can equip and empower your team through this period of transition? And let's just see some of these chat responses come in. We've got a shy group today, huh? Okay, so we've got someone said help them to understand the importance of why. You know, why are these changes? And absolutely great point. We see with so many interventions and retail, if you don't have people's hearts and minds, if you haven't understood, look, this is why we're doing it, then absolutely you're going to go through. Maybe they're going to do what they're asked to do, but it's not with that sort of motivation and understanding of why. Great comment. Okay, let's move on to the next slide here. So the way we look at this, and yeah, we look at automotive and retail. What do we need to do? So it's in terms of the work, it's all about helping our frontline people, sales or service, to be able to meet the customer where they are and get the job done in this hybrid environment. But to do that, and that gets back to the point of why, is we need management willing, able, and equipped to support them. As I said, so many times we see if we do an intervention at retail, if the management aren't on board, any gains that you get from that intervention are really short-lived, because they're not going to be reinforced, they're not going to be rewarded as those frontline employees practice those changes within their work environment. So for managers, in the bottom right here, as always, about talent recruitment, retention, and training, nothing's changed there. One of the really encouraging things that I see as I've talked to dealers over the last few months, researching what's happening with salespeople, is because the industry has been improving its professionalism, because we've got this move now to retail, to digital retail, there's a whole new wave of people willing to come in and work in a sales environment in a dealership. So I've had dealers telling me, look, young people who've maybe got experience of selling something already through Facebook, through Instagram, the idea of doing that with vehicles is very attractive to them, and they have a lot of those skills already. So I think we've got a real opportunity to bring new people into the industry. The management are going to be really concerned about making sure that they're creating this modern buying experience and then helping build the next generation of leaders. So that's absolutely critical. And those frontline people, virtual selling, social media skills. Yeah, I've talked to dealers who actively support and encourage their salespeople to have their own identities on Facebook, Instagram, and actually to sell that way. But one of the things we're seeing is that although digital selling is very much with us, it's new enough that the gap between kind of average and world class is really wide still. So it's a big area of focus. And now there's so much data, obviously. And then, so how do we make sense of all that? And how do we leverage technology like connected cars to really lift the customer experience to a whole new level? So other comments that have come in. So developing sales plans that accommodate people moving in and out of the hybrid experience and in and out of digital and into the dealership. So the need to connect with customers every step of that journey. Absolutely spot on comment. So let's move to the next slide. That's really just a bit of setup, and I haven't taken too much of your time about how we think about this transformation that's taking place in retail. So, but I think now the real benefit is going to be hearing from our panel. So I'm going to hand over to Laurie, who's going to lead the panel discussion today. Laurie, and take it over to you.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everybody. Look, and just to follow on from Scott, there is a chat there. The important part about this whole panel discussion is that the people participating get to ask questions of the heavyweights in the industry being from Ford, BMW, and Nissan. So Jamie and Kunwichit and Simon would be happy to help respond to some of the chats. We'll answer those questions at the end. We'll pick some questions out of it. But this is what it's all about, to get a perspective from these three executives that come from different parts of the business, and we've set this up so that you can get a wide-ranging response that will vary and probably highlight the complexity of what's happening in this change. So Zach, let's go straight into the first panel question. Okay, so we might start this from Simon being the managing director. This is a very macro scale, and we'll then look at other perspectives. So, your thoughts, Simon, your thoughts about the changing landscape of automotive retail, right? So, what are your expectations out of this? You've seen this happen for the last 5 years, and now through what we've just still experiencing, there's some massive changes. So, what are the things that you're excited about with all this change?
Thanks, Laurie. It is really exciting. I mean, I think that the pace of change is accelerating. Consumers are changing, their buying behavior is changing. So anyone up for a good challenge is in the right place in automotive retail right now. So some of the things that I think we're experiencing right now are, I'll probably give you a couple of examples around it, is this ability to provide a self-select capability for customers. We've got traditional customers who are quite happy going the traditional route. And for example, in New Zealand, that might be some of our more rural-based customers. But then we have others who are metro-based who are much keener to go on a digital route and pick and choose what they want. So it's a little harder to keep track of everybody when they're not going down the old traditional route and everything was about the deal. Everything now is about the experience and tailoring to that. So, and I understand certainly from our team, it does create a little bit of worry and concern because of the pace of change. But actually, if you just stick to the fundamental principles about serving customers, it's more exciting than it is fear-inspiring. But I do think that we're going to face a different need for a different skill set in our business. For example, we're looking at, traditionally, we would have recruited somebody and given them a job description for a period. We're now actually looking to move to a more generic job description in our own teams because we know that what they're doing today might be different tomorrow. So we need more flexibility built into the system. And from our dealers, reweighting the structure that they have, for example, creating stronger capabilities in the digital e-commerce space than traditionally what we've had is the guy who looked after used cars, taking care of things and their role expanding, but it was a junior role. If 20% of your business is coming through these different channels, with this capability, you need to put the right level of resource in there and perhaps weight it down elsewhere. So that's a quick answer to a very big question.
Yeah, and with what Scott explained, there's a whole lot to unpack in each one of those statements that Scott made. So, and I guess from Ford's perspective, you're talking about New Zealand. There are unique challenges in all of the other markets, depending on the level of uptake of digitization, I suppose.
Yeah, and we've seen it, and clearly the pandemic has accelerated things, and therefore, I think the best advice I can give is really understand your customers. We certainly see different behaviors, even based on the type of vehicles that customers are buying, so or how you classify those customers into buyer groups. And it's our job just to put the solutions in place. Unfortunately, you can't just channel everybody down the simple route. You have to have a more, as Scott said, more of a hybrid model that can capture and serve people how they want to be served.
Sure. Thanks, Simon. I'll go into the after sales side with Jamie. So obviously from the customer service side in sales, there's some unique customer experiences that need to be developed by all manufacturers. But from the after sales side, it's fairly similar. There's changing in EV, but from your perspective, what's changing the landscape in the after sales area?
Right. Thanks for that, Laurie. So from the after sales, I think it's not so much different from the sales as well. Customers are more well informed than they were before. So in the past, you would have a customer who buys a car and they bring it into the service. They rely on the service advisor for all the advice, what should be done on my car. But these days, the customers who come in are probably sometimes even a little bit more knowledgeable about the car than the service advisors are if the service advisor is a junior. So the challenge there is to ensure that we are up to par in terms of our knowledge, in terms of what we should do. We have to show that level of professionalism, that the customers look up to us and say, yep, they are still the experts. They know more about the car than I do. I think I know a lot, but they definitely know more than me. So that's the first challenge, I would say. The other thing is that we are seeing as a challenge is the whole turnover. It used to be in the past when you have got technicians that would stay on with a dealership for a good number of years. Yeah, the whole turnover of staff doesn't happen so rapidly. But with this whole new generation that Scott mentioned about, especially the millennials, the Gen Z, they tend to change jobs more faster than the previous generations, and that's always been a challenge. You train someone up and then they leave, and then when they leave, you get someone else in. You need to train them again on those aspects. So we see that digitalization is probably the future here, because with digitalization we actually can standardize some of those processes, taking away some of the reliance on staff capabilities, staff knowledge, staff expertise, and let a system or let a process guide them through. So they become a facilitator of the whole process. A staff becomes a user of the process, rather than the one that I'm deciding what should be done, and I know what's done, and because of my skills, people love me. People come to me as a service advisor or as a technician because I have the skills. But now it's going more towards like, okay, I have a whole process, everything's in place, there's a system in place, there's digital platforms in place. I just need to use them and facilitate the whole process so that the customer receives more or less a standardized approach, a standardized menu, a standardized experience. Something like McDonald's. If you go to McDonald's in every country, the food tastes the same, the experience is the same. That almost the scripts that the cashier talks to you, would you like an upsize? I mean, those things are exactly the same. So it's all about using a system, it's all about using processes now, rather than what it used to be in the automotive industry.
Okay, so that's what's exciting to you, to Nissan, is that this change that's going on in digitization, standardizing the process, is mitigating risks associated with customer retention, because you haven't got that greater churn going on. You've got a process that can be identified where the pain points may be in the process.
Correct.
Yeah. So that really does lead on to Kunwichit in your capacity as training a whole country and empowering all of the staff employees in how to actually adapt to this change, because we know that BMW, like all, go through a lot of digitization. So Kunwichit, this is a really important topic. We see a lot of churn in the whole industry in all countries around Asia Pacific region. What's exciting to you in relation to this changing landscape that's going to benefit your business?
Okay, thank you very much, Kun Lawrence. And I think this is a one of the very first question, right? When we talk about the digitalization, I still remember, back in 2014 when I was in Munich, and the first time that I heard about the digitalization, and the very first let's say reaction from every training manager in the world, we are let's say talking about let's say who should be the very first group who get into this transformation. And for example, we are talking about sales and marketing, that they are easier to adopt this new digital learning. And we're saying that no way from the technical, it must be the face-to-face only, because this is more practical, this is more activity during the training. But from our experience, especially at that time, may I give you a little bit more information that at that time, back in 2014, at that time the USA they already have, 1/3 of their total training, deliver online. And again, in 2014, surprisingly to me and everyone that in China, at that year, they are already, achieve 50% or, half of their total complete training program, deliver online. So, and after that, this is always the discussion that, it seems to me that, just like a never ending story. But it seems to me that, during the pandemic hitting us in lately in 2019, and once we have to be, let's say, to be forced to deliver something else, this is again, we have to think about two things for the trainings and for the training perspective. The first thing is, how to make the most out of it from this new platform to the, to our target group, which is, our dealer staff. And, again, the second shot gonna be, not the second dose vaccination, but the second shot that is gonna be the, how our dealer staff, contact or, providing or even, let's say, contact to our customer, on the new platform. And frankly speaking, I would say you cannot train them because, from our experience, it's not, have been completely, finished yet. I would say that this transformation is still moving on. For example, last year, you may talk about, how to sell car, in the Facebook or in the, Instagram. But now you have, another new platform available in line, in Thailand in line, or maybe in the Clubhouse, or maybe in another new platform. And for you, you are not, the person who know this platform well than them. And they are the person who, just like the movie Matrix, that you go, jump into the Matrix world, and then you are not the ruler, you play with their games. So how you make the most out of this platform, and you no way for us to, have our, let's say, our platform the same as they do. And so one of the thinking, for us to deliver the retail training is that, we start with the attitude first. We tell our people that this is nothing, this is not new, this is not new. You get used to it for a period of time. Let's say, let's check let's say how Thai people use their mobile phone, how many hours that, you use that device online, and all these things. And, we set the attitude first. And then after that, we need to think about the whole new things. For example, we cannot, just deliver the face-to-face training material under the virtual classroom training. We cannot do that. We have to, we cannot follow that old platform. We need to do something else. And surprisingly, that for us, it's not about, the learners who worry about this, because they are, I would say that they are much more than ready than we think. And they, it's just, about the right person. For us at the training in BMW, it's just only three things. Everyone, the right person at the right time in the right program. And once you do that, and once you, prepare for this well, and, you got a, very good support from, let's say for us is we got a very good support from Munich, because, they invest in the online platform long time ago. And then once we need to have it, we just, just like our trainer to be certified for virtual classroom training, and then we are ready to go. And so for us, the only thing that we are a little bit worried is, the second route, how can I say, how our dealer staff to contact the customer in the most effective way. That is the thing that we are still worried about. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kunwich. So that sort of leads us on to the next one, Zach, which all three panelists have actually explained some challenges anyway. But what I've heard from all three, and also in some of the chat, is that there is a change of a mindset that's happening with the customer, and there's a change of a mindset that we must influence the actual the dealer employees in different levels. And then when Scott overlays it with the different generations that we're dealing with four, almost 4 generations now of different mindsets. So that seems to be a huge challenge, aligning the generations to the generation employees to the generation customers, and on top of that, overlaying that with new technologies and change process. So Jamie, I know we've been doing a bit of work on that. Can we get some feedback on some of those challenges you see? Let's talk about across the APAC region.
Yeah. So as extending a little bit from what I was mentioning just now, the challenges for us are actually to ensure that we're putting in place processes that are systemized. Yeah. And I say systemized, I'm not talking about just putting it on a piece of paper, having an SOP drafted out and everybody reads the SOP and follows it. I'm talking about systemized in a proper system, in an IT system, in a digital system. Because why? We see that as the way of the future. And that's part of, for Nissan at least, that's part of what we call the NIS, the Nissan Intelligence Service, which forms part of the Nissan Intelligent Mobility Initiative that's rolled out globally. But the bigger picture of why that's important is because imagine this: you have a service advisor who joins. I'll use a service advisor as an example, who joins the business fairly new, and he comes in with maybe some experience on some other brands, but he's still generally new in the whole process of what Nissan does. So if he has to learn all of this, knowledge retention is always going to be a challenge, yeah, especially if you're doing training, whether it's online or whether it's face-to-face. Knowledge retention is going to be a problem. But if you have got systems in place whereby I take a piece, like let's say I take a tablet in my hand, and I just click the next button, it tells me what I need to do next. And then when I do next, okay, it prompts me, this is what I need to do with the customer, this is what I need to check with the customer. So I have already got these cues given to me via a system, and I just follow through with that. I just follow the steps that are given to me in this digital tablet I'm holding in my hand. And I give then the customer the same experience that what a senior advisor would be able to do with his eyes closed, for example. So yeah, that kind of digitalization takes away the need or the reliance on skills, rather puts in place a system that a service advisor now becomes a facilitator. He pilots the system, but he doesn't have to know exactly everything in place. Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, should I have said this, should I have said that? Everything's in the system. And of course, it doesn't take away the fact that a service advisor still needs to be trained on the product, on its features, and to be able to really convey his experience and his professionalism. But it takes away the need, or it takes away that kind of variance in processes.
Okay. So Simon, from a whole of business perspective, you've mentioned some of those macro challenges that you face, but from a whole of business, there must be some key areas that you're faced in relation to challenges right now.
I think it really becomes the fact that we're now living in a world that is pretty agile, right? Things move around, you have to pivot regularly, and also we're needing a different set of skills to run the business going forward. So, for example, in the connectivity space, all our vehicles have embedded modems. The data's there. The leverage of that data going forward, whether it be through the ownership cycle or for customer loyalty, we didn't have those skill sets in the business. So one of our key challenges is actually trying to find the right people, and we all know how difficult that is, and rebalancing the skill sets that we've got in the business. So I think that the challenges of then a wider scope of work, right? Because we haven't actually stopped some of our traditional models and channels. They're still there. We've just added to them. We've got we've got 5 strands of go-to-market instead of 1, and therefore having that agility, having the right leadership and behaviors in your business is almost as important as, or more important, I would say, than the skills themselves. Once you get your technology and your capabilities, The real skill is having the right culture in your organization where people are prepared to drop and run with the latest thing, because otherwise you're going to struggle because you're just not going to be able to keep pace with the dynamics.
Yeah, and that rings through to the whole agility of from production to sales, and also as some of the participants are saying that you need to be multi-skilled. So that seems to be a common theme. We do have one question from Tim McGrath. Simon, how impactful do you see the OEM field force in driving dealer improvement moving forward? Do they need better skills and technology also?
That's a fantastic question. It was prompts me to talk about something I was thinking about, but I haven't shared with the rest of my team yesterday, which is I wonder whether we need our traditional zone managers anymore, right? I think what we need is a more focused set of support structures for our dealers to. Because they're all grappling with the same thing, and they look to us as OEMs as leaders. We're meant to help them, and therefore we have to provide solutions for them that are going to help them navigate as they grapple with all these changes. So I think it does mean you have to disrupt yourself and say, well, that worked before in the traditional model, but this resource that I've got, because I'm not going to get any more, is better spent in these areas. So certainly there'll be a dealer-facing element. Will it be traditional? No, I don't think so.
Good question, good answers. We might go over to the next question. And I'll ask Widget this one, because I know that we're working closely with you, but also BMW have got some pretty innovative things going on in relation to preparing dealers for the changes. And we've talked about generations. We've talked about the whole new customer experience model, but Simon just mentioned getting the right skills for the job. So from a BMW perspective, how are you looking for the right skills, knowing that BMW are in the connected space, in all of these innovation areas, very big on EV and hybrid. So Richard, what are you doing to prepare the dealers for these changes?
Okay, I think it's combined to three main areas. The first thing is the infrastructures first, because let's say you building a house, you are setting up a new city. Is you need to have the infrastructures. So for us, the very first thing that we looking at the training center is the internet speed. How fast do we have it, and how much do we need it? Because you can imagine that is the internet speed. You can go anywhere. You can spend only some 100 Thai baht per month up to more than 10,000 Thai baht per month. Is up to you. But what is the right infrastructure that you need to have? And that is the first thing that we are looking into it. And it's also, the second thing is about the infrastructure. This infrastructure, I mean, the tangible and also intangible thing as well. You need to have, a studio that is, ready for your trainer to let's say to deliver the training in the most effective way. And you also need to, talk to your dealership as well, because in the past they come to the training center and we facilitate everything to them. We provide everything. They just travel to us. But now, no, they cannot. So you have to not only think about yourself, but also think about infrastructure at the dealership as well. That is the very first thing. The second thing is the sender. I mean the trainer, right? In the past, we talking about the sender and the receiver, and what is the most effective way for the sender to send that message to the receiver. And I think everyone used to play the game that 10 people in the row, and the first people start saying something to the second one, and then on and on and on, and you face that the last person they speak something totally different. So this is again, so we need to make sure that your trainer is certified. And for us at the training in BMW, the virtual classroom trainer, we call it the trainer license certification. The virtual trainer certification This program, has been created in 2015 and first implemented over there in the western part of the world in that year. And then for us, hitting Thailand in 2016. And that is the very first day that we sent our trainer to join this program. And surprisingly, that program in 2016 now is not, how can I say, it's not practical in the real world now. So again, you can imagine that in the past, we sent our trainer for face-to-face certification one time, and it's lifetime certification. But now you have to think about, the new format, the new platform. So nearly every year or 2 years that you need to send your trainer to, to get something new, how to handle with this online platform. That is the second thing. And the last thing that we prepare for this new world is, to make sure that, let's say, our dealer staff, they will, have this concern. The first thing is about the speed, because, once you, let's say, talking to a customer online, it's not the same as you see the customer, face to face at the showroom. You can provide them coffee or, wine or champagne or whatever that you can, allow them to spend more time at the showroom. But in the digital world, maybe you cannot do that. So the speed may be the first thing that they need to be aware. The second thing is about time, because, they need to understand that in the online world, there is no working out. The customer can, jump into your, digital platform anytime that they feel convenient. So you need to make sure that, your infrastructure or your platform is available both, speed and time. And another things that we already also prepare for our, let's say, internal colleague and the dealer staff as well is about the data privacy things. And although the digital crime that we all know that, in the digital world, you don't know who is actually in the other side of the let's say, another end. I would say you think you're talking to a real customer, but he or she may be not the real customer. He or she may be someone else. He or she may be, maybe someone that not, not frankly speaking to you or transparent to you. Or, another thing is, every transaction online has a risk as well. Even though you have, a very superative or high, security, let's say, mechanic to protect it, but it's, it seems to us that, every day we face, the problem that someone hacked into the system and, doing with the system and, get that data. So all these things, to protect the data privacy of the customer, to, let's say, protect the system, to avoid the digital crime or something like that. This is all those things that we need to, let's say, prepare for the, let's say, for the dealership to contact to the customer.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. They're good points, because it's something that we wouldn't have thought of before. So there's, with one innovation, there's a whole heap of new innovations. So yeah,
Warren,
looking at
if I could just add something to that, it's
yeah.
The point about infrastructure is so good, because we think about all these new initiatives and our higher ideals of driving culture and upskilling people, and we still get tripped up on basic infrastructure, right? And Jamie knows this really well from his projects, is that if you don't have the right digital infrastructure in the dealership, you're going to go nowhere. And then there's even issues like, if I take a market like Philippines, where mobile phone data is still really expensive, and people guard it jealously. So you just can't ask a dealership employee to go and use, half a gig of data doing a course virtually that they're going to pay for. They're just not going to do it. That's your Netflix time, that their data that you're using up. So really interesting points, and really great example of how we've got to tailor the approach for individual markets. And back to Simon's point, differences between metro and rural as well.
Thanks, Scotty. Thanks, good Richard. Zach, can we go to the next question, please? Watching time. Okay, so Simon, again, from an executive macro level, what are other areas of disruption that you see we're facing? So at the moment, we know what we see, but 18 months ago, we didn't see something coming. So is there some of the risk mitigation being looked at now as to what lies in the future?
think it's the two core areas. I would say, are consumers' behaviors changing, and therefore the balance of what they need out of automotive is changing with it. You know, their mobility as a whole is changing. You know, just mobility as a service as opposed to traditional models, I think is a key area of disruption. And you see new entrants coming into the field that kind of span across some of those traditional cutoff points in the industry, and they're able to provide solutions that blend and support customers' needs. So I think it's, you know, it's really interesting because it's not just the way people are going to market, but it's clearly multiple new entrants picking fragments of the bigger industry up, running their business on what were traditionally smaller. We had a very much, and we still do to some degree, a scaled industry where the ticket of entry was pretty expensive. And now where the ticket of entry can be less, right? And the critical success factors are maybe more software and user experience than wheels and pure engineering. So I think that those are the real interesting things. Watch who's going to be successful and who's not, and where makes it interesting.
So I know Scott wants to answer David's question, and I think again watching time, the next question is words of advice relating to the audience. So Scott, would you like to start off just regarding David's question? Zach, if you could move to the next.
Yeah, sure. So David asked a really interesting question, which was, once we return to normal or something like normal, do you see dealers running a separate sales team, so a digital sales team and a face-to-face sales team? And I'd like to address this. As I said, I've recently spent a lot of time talking to dealers in various markets, particularly on this role of salespeople for a blog post we did about a month ago. And my answer to that would be that might be some sort of short-term accommodation, but generally no. Is you want a salesperson to be able to follow that customer through their online, offline experience, and not to have to kind of choose a channel before they go. I think practically, as I've talked to dealers about salespeople and who adapts best to selling on Facebook, Instagram, etc., and who doesn't, salespeople kind of select themselves right now to some degree. Like some will really shy away from digital; they're not comfortable with it, and they're all about talking to the people coming into the showroom and all their old contact book and that kind of thing. Whereas other and it is a little bit of an age divide, not always, but often. And others will just spend all their time just promoting their posts through Facebook and making contacts and engaging with customers as they come in through that channel. Reminds me of just one of the dealers I talked to, I've known for about 20 years, said, look, do you remember when we used to say that our salespeople would be standing around in the showroom looking at their phones, and we'd say, hey, what are you on your phones for? You should be focused on customers coming to the showroom. And she said now it's like, see salespeople standing in the showroom and saying, why aren't you on your phone? Why are you not engaging with customers on the phone? So just a really neat example of how things have changed. Laurie, back over to you.
Yeah, no worries. So look, everybody, we're watching time. We've got a couple of small pieces here, but put questions in the chat, and we will answer these questions even offline when we respond to you. So please, we're here as a resource to support and also the panel. So just lastly, we'd like to provide Simon Witchett and Jamie some words of advice to the participants, and also just a quick plug on what they're actually doing within their organization. We'd love you to stay on to listen to it, and then once again, add to the chats. And if you can stay on for more questions, we're happy to stay on and answer them for you. So let's start with Simon.
Oh gosh, yeah, you give me a minute or so for this. So it's a great question.
The infomercial.
My advice would be have fun, embrace the the change. It's an exciting and it's a massive growth opportunity to be part of. and get on the horse, right? It's put your ears on and listen, because I think the biggest challenge we've got is we all think we've got the answers, but actually we don't. And we probably don't listen enough sometimes to get the right path forward. So that would be my advice. Get on, fail a bit, pick yourself up, but look at it just as a lesson. And in the process, you'll deliver a great job, no doubt.
Okay. And Kunwichit, I'll answer Adesai's questions shortly, but Kunwichit, what's your views?
Okay, I would say that start now, no excuse. Or I always talk to our dealer staff that please start now, no excuse, because in the near future you may be replaced by a robot or by an AI.
Right.
One day there gonna be no more physical sales advisor. The AI, they are 5G, 6G, 7G, whatever G, but one day they will replace you. Look to Siri, how they work. Look to another AI platform. They are more and more clever, and we are now in the Terminator movie already, something like that. So for me, a very short, to everyone that thinking about digitalization, please start it now, no excuse, and get a very positive attitude. Don't talk much about the disruption or something that is gonna make you mad, because you will be disrupted for sure, and you cannot avoid it. Thank you, Kap.
Thank you. And Jamie.
Right. So for us, I think the key thing is, as an advice, I would say, is equip everyone, all staff, and especially those in the front line, with the skills required, more the soft skills required, and the mindset skills required to take on new knowledge. Right. We have to sort of think out of the box. We have to start thinking that, okay, there is things that I don't know. So if I don't know, how do I get into the process of knowing it? So that kind of skills of learning, the learning skills. So we have to train people how to learn. And that is important, right? Otherwise, we're going to be left behind. There's no way we can prepare for everything. And things will come, COVID-21 will come perhaps and hit us, and we'll go like, oh shit, there's something new now. So there's no way we can prepare for everything. So we just have to be ready for that. Having said that, for us at Nissan, we are definitely doing that. We have all these new approaches towards the customer, looking at how we use the Nissan Intelligence Service, the NIS, to actually see not just the sales or the retail, but also like how we get the customers in the service, how we get the customers to engage with us, how we get to retain the customer. All of this is going through a drastic and dramatic change right now. And look out for it. You will probably see a lot of changes coming out if you're a customer of a Nissan. But yeah, that is changing. So be ready for it by learning the skills you need to learn new skills.
Excellent advice. And Scotty, you'd like to come in?
Yeah, sure. So and thanks, guys. Really, really fantastic advice for everyone on the call. Eddie has asked a very critical existential question about the industry. So I think we'll take the second hour to cover that. Just about how the business model is changing. I talked up front about some OEMs moving to an agency model. We've seen some of that in Australia and New Zealand. And we've got the example of Great Wall, who we work with here in Thailand, doing a very different approach to their retail distribution. So I know, Simon, this is an area you've spent quite a bit of time, and I know that you're actively considering, and you actually do know Eddie from your past, as Jamie knows him as well. So have you got any thoughts on that? Obviously, a very is almost an existential question about how we organize as an industry. So I know you've got an existential question, so I'll let you take it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to me, it still goes down to and I think this is going to be very different by market, is what the approach is going to be for the customer. For example, for us, we find that you know, some of our relationships with customers are extremely embedded, and there's a lot of trust there. And actually, the way somebody will buy a car and is actually just phone that person and tell them what they want, and you know, money's actually not the main thing. They just like the relationship and having a chat, and they say, "Oh, can you order me one of those now and again?" So I think that relationship part is really central. And then there will have others that prefer to be serviced the other way. I think the challenge is, and it's different by brand because the customer base is different, is finding what your model is, and making sure that your model is the one that works to best serve your customers. And I would just, you know, emphasize for each brand to emphasize what it's good at, and spend more time doing that than trying to be like anybody else, because you know, ultimately that's your brand differentiation. So it's what people remember about you. So.
Great, good. Thank you, Simon. Definitely words of wisdom. Laurie, I think we're about time to wrap up, I would say.
Yeah, we are. And again, this is a recorded session, so everybody who attended will get it, as well as those who couldn't make it. And yeah, keep the questions coming. So it's not over. These are very hot topics that we see transforming as GP strategies. And I know Scott and I are working with all of you on a number of these matters. And yeah, it's a journey that we're all experiencing ourselves. So, Scotty, have you got some last words?
Yeah, I do. So I'd like to really thank everyone who participated, and I'd really, most importantly, like to thank our panel, to Jamie, Simon, Kunwichit. Really, you guys were the value in all of this, and we really appreciate you giving us your time and giving us your insight. I would like to repay you by giving you each 15 seconds now for a shameless commercial plug for something going on in your business. Everyone knows that the audiences at the GP Strategies webinars are the influencers and high socioeconomic thought leaders. So you've got the right audience here. So who wants to go first? Jamie.
Okay, so I'll put on the spot there. Okay, well, for us, I think shameless plug, yeah. Well, Nissan's coming out with a lot of new models. Do check it out. There's a lot of innovative technology put in our cars. Some of the technology that we do have in our cars is quite unique, and we are probably the only manufacturer in the market to have those technologies. I will not say it, but go check out with a dealership or check out our websites to find out more about it.
Thank you, Jamie. Simon.
We're at a very exciting point just for us locally. I mean, with what we've seen coming through the US with our, again, jumping on with the strengthening of our technology base, the new stack in our vehicles, the F-150 Lightning, Mackie, and, you know, just even in little old New Zealand, where we're just about to ramp out. We've got our Escape here, we've got our e-Transit coming, we've got an Escape Hybrid coming, we've got a mild hybrid Focus, we've got plenty going on. So my bid would be, yeah, so if you enjoy a bit of driving dynamics, get in your Ford.
Wonderful, thanks, Simon. Okay, Kunwichit, tell us about the next exciting thing coming up at BMW.
Okay, last but not least, right? Okay, for BMW, let's say not only electrify, you know, vehicle that you will get it from BMW, but you will get, you know, another 2 to 3 area as well. By the end of this year, it's gonna be the year that we will introduce the new BMW iX, or you know, by coding is i20 to Thailand market. It come with not only, you know, fully electric vehicle, but fully, you know, loaded on, you know, connected thing as well. Coming with the new app, you know, the new 5G in the vehicle, need no your mobile phone anymore. And then the last thing, you know, just, you know, teaser to you that is come with the new concept inside that we call it the child tech, that you will not, see any, less and less button in the car, but you still can, handle everything, much more than before. So this is, just please, stick to our website and, please be so kind, to, let's say, get a BMW anytime if you, would like to have a new car.
Wonderful. Good. So there you go. Three pictures from three world-class brands. So really appreciate it. Everyone, thanks for your time today. Laurie, thanks for hosting the panel discussion. Zach, thanks for setting this all up and moderating. If you have other questions, comments, just feel free to get in touch. But wishing everyone a great day, and because it's the automotive business, a strong finish to the month. And we'll catch you all next time. Thank you.
This webinar is brought to you by GP Strategies. Together we can create a world where business excellence makes possibilities achievable. You can access more webinars or download additional resources at gpstrategies.com/resource-library.